close and dear friend of our friend and comrade Kevin to come forward and to deliver the oration. Former President of Sinn Féin, the Chuck the Dála for Loud, Gerry Adams.
Gormila, Oglach, weaving. Percentage and Sean, you. Then our Gara, Captain McKenna, Bar Kayla, Marcella, a Cur, we Talu, Agus Kun Calaru, a Yanu, or a Hill. Agus a Gus Mawal Yon Mark Hobron, a Yanu Len Marcella, Agus Kieran, Podrick, Agus Grania, Agus Nagar, Heisty. Agus Tas Ogum Gowil, Wur Cree Brista. Tá ar Cree Brista Fosta. Bar Untalk Kevin, Bar Lider, Bar Hela, Ahar, Sean Ahar no Dajo, Jarahar, Ar Gomrada, Ar Gara, Ar Kilra. For all of us who had the honour to know Captain McKenna, today is the day in which we can remember with affection and pride a man of enormous commitment and personal courage. Kevin, as Phoebe has said, was a quiet, thoughtful Republican. He dedicated years of his adult life to the cause of Irish freedom and to the Irish people. Kevin loved Ireland, the people of Ireland. It was in his DNA. He was also a loving and attentive son and brother, a devoted husband, a father, and a grandfather. So on my own behalf and that of Colette, on behalf of Republicans everywhere, I want to extend our heartfelt condolences to Marcella, to Kieran, Joanne, to Podrick and Myra, to Grania and Eamon, and to all the grandchildren, Riona, Fionn, Cormac, Fakra, Nisha, Brogan, Tag, August Cullen. Condolences also to Kevin's brother Martin, his late brother Eamon and sisters Kathleen, Ida and Bernie, and his late sister Eileen. You're all in our thoughts and in our prayers. I want to thank the doctors and nurses and all those who looked after Kevin and Kevin O'Harland and here in Monaghan. And McCobrone also to Kevin's comrades and to the former prisoners who did time with him. He would have been pleased at the Guard of Honour, some slightly geriatric, we have assembled here in his honour, and I saw men, mostly men, who were genuinely surprised to see each other and delighted to see each other alive. So I want to give a falsha more of Uachtaráin agus Las Uachtaráin Hen Féin, Bradley MacDonald agus Michelle O'Neill, agus Bernie McGuinness, Ban Celia, Martin agus Amach Bakra. Today is a very sad day in the lives of the Lagalier and McKenna family and in the lives of Kevin friends and comrades here in County Monaghan, in Tyrone and across this Ireland. It's especially difficult for Marcella. She's lost her soulmate, her partner, her spouse, the father of her children, and her Anam Cara. And there is a sense of loss which will never fade, even though in time we may learn how to cope. But Marcella, you also have memories, precious memories, memories of a wonderful life together. And all of us have a great sense of respect and pride and love in the patriot we bury here today. Kevin first became involved in the Republican struggle in 1970. He had just returned home from the Yukon Territory in northwest Canada, up near Alaska. It's almost 6 times, he told me, the size of Ireland. He always started when he was talking about this by saying, when I was in Canada, well, it has less than half the population of County Monaghan. It's a beautiful place full of wild mountainous ranges, long glacier-fed alpine lakes, and it gets very cold. Once in 1968, while Kevin was there, the temperature dropped to minus 60 degrees. And the memories of his time in the Yukon stayed with Kevin all his life. He was especially fond of the poetry of Robert Service. He loved Dangerous Don McGrew and the cremation of Sam McGee. He loved the wildness of northwest Canada and his encounters with the native people there. But his heart was in the hills of Tyrone. He was also very fond of the poems of W.F. Marshall, the Bard of Armagh. I'm living in Drumlister, and I'm getting awful old. I have to wear an ingy bag to save me from the cold. There's ne'er a man in this town land was cleaner reared nor me, but I'm living in Drumlister, in clobber to the knee. Me da lived up in Carman. He kept a servant boy. His second wife was very, very sharp. He buried her with joy. Now she was thin. Her name was Flynn. She comes from Cullentra, and if me shirt's a cloddy shirt, the man that blames me da. Kevin had heard of the troubles at home. The campaign of civil rights, the marches in Coleland and Dungannon, the Kellerton squat by the Gildernews, the violent response of the Unionist regime at Stormont and of the British government. So he came back from the bitter cold of the Yukon to the hothouse that was County Tyrone in early 1970 to join the ranks of the Irish Republican Army. Among the rolling hills of Tyrone, in the narrow laneways, the villages, the roads of that historic county, Kevin and his comrades relentlessly and defiantly fought the British Army. The British Army didn't have a chance of defeating the spirit, centuries old, of an indomitable people with character and a culture and a history and a sense of freedom as old as Ireland. I was there often during hard times, usually with Martin McGuinness. We were always made welcome by the Republican people, even in the wake of huge disasters in their own lives, and too often at the funerals of brave sons and daughters of that historic county, and here in County Monaghan also. Usually, we had to run the gauntlet of British Army, RUC, or UDR aggression. Now, there are still big challenges today, and we shouldn't understate them, but the obscenity of the concrete military fortifications is removed. The helicopter gunships, the SAS units, the huge military patrols are no more. And even as we gather here today, the so-called United Kingdom is disuniting. Yes, we have quarrels to settle with our unionist neighbour. And yes, the partition remains. But Republican Ireland remains also resolute, unbowed, undefeated, and looking to the future. And why is this so? It's because those, like Kevin McKenna and Marcella, who took a stand against British militarism, loved freedom more than anything else. Kevin was a decent man doing his best in very difficult times. War is a terrible calamity. The Republican people of the North never went to war. The war came to us. I'm mindful of those who have been hurt, and there has been hurt on all sides, and healing and reconciliation is needed. But the war is over, and the future is being written now. And as we help to write that future, we will not let the past be written in a way which demonizes patriots like Kevin McKenna any more than we would the generations before him. I think the men and women of 1916 were right. I think the Hisblock hunger strikers were right. I think Kevin McKenna was right. I think the IRA was right. Not in everything that it did, but it was right to fight when faced with the armed aggression of British rule. It was also right to make peace. And Kevin McKenna's leadership in that challenging period of change was essential. Kevin was a Republican soldier who had the politics to know when to fight and the political vision to know when to talk. This August marks 25 years from the first IRA cessation. That was an initiative created by Republicans which opened up the potential for the peace process. Kevin had the courage to make the big decisions with others during the conflict. He also was one of those who had the courage to make the big and difficult decisions during the efforts to make peace. It is the nature of things that the part played by Republicans like Kevin during the long years of war will never be known. The tales will never be told. Others may boast. Kevin would have none of that. He had no time for ego trippers or voluntary projects. He had no time for loose talkers or Walter Middies or spoofs. He was the real deal. An honest, decent Republican who saw off Thatcher, remember Thatcher, and her ilk, and brought the British government to the negotiating table. He also supported the building of Sinn Féin, and Queeveen has testified to his support here in Monaghan. He was very progressive in his social attitudes on the role and rights of women and on the need for social justice. He was a committed internationalist. And probably none of his neighbours in Smithborugh knew anything of this, except perhaps Hensley. Kevin was a modest man. He came to County Monaghan in 1972. In 1973, he met Marcella at the Ulster football final in Clonus. Tyrone won. So did Kevin. In 1974, he was arrested in this state and charged with IRA membership. He was sentenced to Portlaoise prison, where along with others he embarked on a hunger strike. After 39 days, he was taken from the prison to the Curragh Military Hospital. Kevin took the prison authorities to court, were continuing to hold him beyond his normal release date, and he was freed in February 1975 after 48 days of hunger strike without returning to Portlaoise. Marcella and Kevin were married here in Monaghan in November 1975. And according to legend, Marcella kept Kevin waiting for over an hour. In 1976, he was back in Portlaoise for a short time. He met Martin McGuinness in Portlaoise. He says he taught Martin to play chess. That was always an issue of good-hearted banter between them. They were more serious about their receding hairlines. Martin always slagged Kevin for keeping a wee wisp at the front. And so he did. Is that right, Marcel? Until a few short years ago. When I got to know Kevin and Marcella, they were living in a mobile home up behind Sheila O'Neill's. They lived a very frugal existence, harassed regularly by the special branch. Kevin fed his young family on rabbit. He had a big old second-hand chest freezer filled with wee bunny rabbits, which he'd lumped in his meandering through the fields. Kevin loved the land. He would love a day like this. He loved the sight of it, the smells of it, the feel of it. He loved the outdoors. Farming was in his blood, and fishing. He loved the sea. He loved boats. And when they got the house in Smithborugh, the mobile home was transferred to Melmore Point, above Mulroy Bay and Donegal, where the McKennas spent many happy summers between there, the singing pub, and Pat and Mary Doc's home in Gort na Brad. Kevin once asked the landlord in the singing pub, a Throne Man, when he closed. November was the answer. The McKenna family, like most families, did and continue to do their best to live lives rooted in decency and fairness and in justice. Marcella and Kevin embody that spirit in their love for each other, their loyalty, their love for family and community and for Ireland, in their humanity and compassion. And their children, Kieran, Padraig and Grania, are a great credit to them. And I want to address my concluding remarks to their children, to Kevin and Marcella's grandchildren, to the future, to Riona, Fionn, Cormac, Fagra, Nisha, the twins Brogan and Tag and Cullen. You are Kevin's legacy. Kevin was quite rightly proud of you all. Now some of you are old enough like Riona and Fionn, and you'll remember your grandfather. You'll remember Kevin. But some of the younger ones may not remember him. So tell them about him. Tell them about their Dajo. Tell them who he was. Let them know what he and Granny Marcella did for you all in your own personal lives, in that lovely, subversive relationship that good grandparents enjoy with their grandchildren. All children need iconic figures who they can depend upon. Kevin McKenna was very dependable. Tell them this, tell them all this, and tell them before they were born that he fought for them and for their future, so that they will grow old in a free and united Ireland. Tell them their granda was in the Ra. Tell them he was a rebel. Tell them he was a freedom fighter. Tell them that he and Granny Marcella were fighters for freedom, champions for rights, activists for equality. So thank you, Marcella. Thank you, Kevin, for your friendship, for your comradeship, for your sacrifices. Thank you for your leadership and for your vision for a new future. When you come back from the Yukon to your native Tyrone almost 50 years ago, the North was a very different place. There was no peaceful way to end the Union and to build a new united Ireland. Thanks to your efforts, Kevin, and the efforts of many others, there now is a growing debate about the future, about a new Ireland, about a referendum on Irish unity. And thanks to your efforts, there is now a pathway towards unity. Our duty is to complete that journey. So Slán Kevin, Slán Akara, Slán Gojo, Tyrone, agus Monaghan, Abu, up the Republic.